How's it going, YouTube? I know it's been a while, but I'm finally gonna start doing more Shadowverse content. I'm gonna be doing a lot more Shadowverse streams. We're gonna have more YouTube videos, all that sort of stuff. If you guys have missed my content, you guys want to watch more of it, definitely check it out, and please let me know if you guys want to see more of this. In this video in particular, we're gonna talk about the rotation and the new class and how it's gonna affect Shadowverse as a game and what it's gonna mean for the future. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Alright, so I'm going to break this video down in essentially two parts. What I think are the good things about the rotation and sort of the bad things about the rotation. I think overall though, the rotation is good for the game. I think it's very clear that Shadowverse has been struggling. As a game, it's not been very good for the past couple months, right? The expansions have been great. And although side games have taken steps to improve the game over time, such as, doing the nerfs, maybe changing the way the direction, things like that. It has helped, but I don't think it's enough to make Shadowverse a great game or the good game that it could be, right? So the rotation is going to be a massive change, right? It's going to completely change the game. It's going to force a lot of change. And for that, I think overall the rotation is good. Someone who's played a lot of Shadowverse in the past and hasn't been playing a lot of Shadowverse recently, the rotation excites me for the future of Shadowverse. And it makes me think that the game could be great in the future. Now, as far as the new class, the Portalcraft, is concerned, I think it's good because it shows that side games, they are willing to try something completely new and different, right? Like with the rotation. So in that alone, I think a new class is cool. The concept or whatever, like, we don't know enough about it yet for me to really have an opinion, but I think it's good that they are a new class. I think at the very least, it will add more variety to the game, and I think that's always good for a card game. Maybe in the future when we have more information, I'll do a more in-depth video on the class. Let me know if you guys would want to see that. Alright, let's get started. So what are the things that I think are good about the rotation? The biggest thing obviously is the game will be different, and when a game is going to change, whether that's because of an expansion or a big change like a rotation or something like that, the hope is that it will make the game better, right? As we know in the past from previous expansions, change doesn't always make the game better, but the intention is that it will improve the game. So if you maybe don't like the game that much right now or think it could be better, the hope is that the rotation will make the game better, right? And why will it make the game better? Because a lot of cards that have plagued the game with problems for so long will no longer be playable, right? That said, wild format or whatever they're calling it will still be a thing, so that's good, right? If you do enjoy using all the cards, you still could. Now, could be some problems with that, but I'll get into that later. Now, the reason why I do like the changes is because getting rid of cards such as Dimension Shift and a bunch of other problematic cards that have been around the game for so long, it really changes things, like if you look at Rune as a class, it's like the entire time it's just D-Shift, right? Like that's the class. And it's nice to see that they'll be forced to play something different. And I'm excited for that, right? It means that the game won't be restricted by the older design choices, right? Like, this was a card that came out at the start of the game, and from the start of the game until now, every single deck ever that wants to, like, win past turn 8 or 9, like, well, they're always going to have struggling with D-Shift, right? And that's always going to be an issue. And although they could have nerfed D-Shift in the past, they definitely, didn't choose to. And the rotation means that, it's now gone, right? I think they could do more nerfs or whatever, but the rotation is good because it just forces these things out. And I know I'm kind of picking on D-Shift because it's like my most hated card, but there's a lot of cards that are problematic that will just be gone now, and I think that's good. It's gonna make the game different. Every class will be forced to get a new identity, and I think that's good for the game because I don't think the game is great right now. On top of that, rotation is also good for newer players. If you're a newer player trying to get into Shadowverse, rotation means that there'll be less cards that you have to care about for playing, right? So instead of having to assemble a collection of like 8 expansions, you'll always only have to focus on like the 5. And even though that's still a lot of cards, I mean, side games, they are pretty generous. I think it does help in the new, better experience. With cards like D-Shift being rotated out, I would hope that the game becomes a little bit slower. I know by design, Shadowverse is meant to be a fast game, and side games always want the games to be short, right? But I think if the game was just a little bit slower, it could be a lot better. If the game was slower, we would have more interaction between the players. I think that would lead to more skillful games. And more skillful games, I think, would be more funner games, right? So I personally hope the game slows down just a little bit. And cards like D-Shift that have stopped the game from being able to slow down, with them being gone, I would hope that it could slow down, even if it's just a little bit, right? On top of that, now they're still doing the monthly nerfs, right? So when you factor in the fact that come the end of the year, right, it's not going to be like just a rotation. It's you have the rotation, you still have monthly nerfs, and you have a whole new set of cards, right, in the new expansion. And I think when you combine all these three things, there's a lot of hope. And I know I'm saying against hope a lot because I really hope that the game gets better, right? But the pieces are there for it to be a solid game. If there's problematic cards, they can be nerfed, right? Cards will always rotate out. It'll make the game fresher, more exciting. So I think the rotation is really good for all those reasons. And I personally am really excited for it. I hope you guys are too. Now, on the other side of it, I think there are some things that are sort of negative or bad about the rotation. That said, I do believe that the positive things overall outweigh the negatives. But some of the things that I think are not great about rotation, I feel like it's sort of like a lazy way out. I know a lot of people in like Reddit or Twitch and all this, like people believe that in a card game, like you must have rotation. If not, it's going to get too crazy or something like that. But I don't agree with that at all. I think from a game design perspective, you could, if you put enough effort, obviously it's not easy, but I think you could balance cards with like nerfs or changes, things like that. Like, and having a lot of cards accessible to a player means that there'll be more crazy interactions and more cool things, right? When you have a rotation, you kind of cut that, right? And like you fix the game by just having to deal with like less cards at a time, and it makes it easier to deal with. I do feel like it's the quote-unquote lazy way out, but hey, I think it is a good thing overall. On top of that, just because they're doing rotations, it doesn't mean that they can't make the same mistakes again, right? While, you know, a lot of people love D-Shift, and I know I keep coming back to it, but they could make another card that's like D-Shift or gives you an extra turn or something like that, right? So they could do reprints or cards with like the same effects. So changes are good, but, you know, they still could make mistakes. One of the most important things is that you lose out on some of the most iconic and the favorite cards of players, right? For me personally, Lucifer is my favorite card in the game by far. Every time I play Lucifer, I feel happy. It makes me enjoy the game more. I really, really love the card. I absolutely love his design. And the rotation means that I won't be able to use it anymore, right? And although I think it's worth it to get rid of all the other cards, it does suck that like the card that I associate with Shadowverse the most, I can't even play it anymore, you know? Like that sort of sucks. And you lose access to a lot of cards, and it's not just like one or two cards. It's like a lot of cards that people grew accustomed to over the entire life cycle of the game, right? So that sort of does suck. Now, I know you have the whole wild format, but I think the problem with this is that wild might not get played at all, right? I know if you look at Hearthstone, for example, the wild format is like a joke. Nobody plays it. Even though Blizzard has tried to make like wild tournaments or ladder, things like that, right? It's like nobody really uses it, right? And the way I see it, like me personally, I'm not going to be playing wild because the game kind of sucks right now, right? Like the constructor is not that good. So why would I want to play more of it? I want to play the better version of the game, something different, right? And I think that's what the rotation would be. Plus, if you choose to not play wild and only play rotation, you can disenchant all your cards that are rotating out and get, you know, thousands of dust. So you can hopefully just have all the cards you want to play for a new rotation. So although you do have the option to play wild, and obviously some people will play, you know, if the majority of the player base is not interested in it, if they're not playing it, if there's no tournaments, if there's no hype for it, then, you know, that sort of sucks. But it is there for people that want to use it, so I think that's sort of cool. Rotation has some bad things, but I think the benefits far outweigh them. Again, overall, I'm really excited for it. I'm certainly going to miss Lucifer, but I think it's worth it if I never have to get de-shifted again. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, I'll be doing more Shadowverse content in the future. I'll be doing more streams. Make sure you guys check those out. Thank you guys so much for watching.